njya kubona nkabona komunikasiyo irabuze bikanyobera.
We found evidence on more than 16,000 chemicals that are used or present in plastic materials. So that really demonstrates like the chemical complexity, how many compounds, chemicals are in the plastics we're using on a daily basis. But more importantly, we were interested into which are the problematic chemicals in there, right? 16,000 is quite a lot. So we were interested in chemicals that are toxic to human health or toxic to the environment, that are super persistent. So that means they don't degrade, they stick around for a very long time. PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals, are maybe well-known examples. And we found evidence for more than 4,200 plastic chemicals being of concern with regards to their toxicity for human health and the environment, or their persistence and other properties. At the core of the problem is the chemical complexity of plastics, and that sounds a bit weird, I understand. But you know, like for instance, when we look into how many chemicals we can find in normal plastic items, products that we're using on a daily basis, we usually find between hundreds, if not thousands of chemicals in an individual plastic product. And that's because these materials, they look really shiny and nice and colorful and simple, but chemically they're quite complex.
The deeper you get into the issue, the more you understand that it's a wicked problem, and that in order to robustly solve plastic pollution, you actually have to look at the full life cycle of plastics, and you have to address the chemicals issue, because it's not just plastic pollution and the damage to the environment when plastics get into the oceans, where they damage, flora and fauna, so to speak. But it's also the whole life cycle of plastics already. I mean, as Martin said, these are materials that have been in use for 60, 70 years. They power our economy. They enable a lot of successful business models, but they come with a high price tag. Whole, landscapes are being contaminated. Drinking water is being contaminated with these chemicals that are used in the manufacture of plastics, and causing a lot of health impacts, adverse health impacts. But then also the use of these materials. So if you, for example, think of food packaging, food contact materials, the point is that these chemicals can leach from the product into the food, so from packaging into food. And when that leaching happens, people ingest these chemicals with their food. And so we're finding hundreds, if not thousands, of plastic chemicals in people now. And some of them have been linked to adverse health outcomes.
So producers don't really know like which kind of chemicals they have in their product, and that comes from very complex value chains, if I may say. So the plastics economy is quite fragmented. So there's many little companies that produce bits and pieces, and these chemicals and those chemicals, they're all getting meshed together to make plastic products in the end. So I think like the fragmentation of the whole plastic economy is part of the problem. There is good regulation in some countries and regions that enforces kind of providing information of which chemicals are used, or some of the chemicals that are used. But in many countries, such regulatory kind of pressure doesn't exist. So there's kind of no motivation to disclose what's in the plastic